All right, well, good morning. Didn't the band sound great today? We'll give them a hand. Thankful for all that they do. I got a question for you guys, okay? And I want by a quick show of hands. I want you to raise your hand I want you to think in your mind right now, think of somebody that you know is like just a big hypocrite, okay? Like they're so hypocritical, they annoy you. Anyone have that person? Raise your hand. Anybody? Keep your hand up if they're sitting beside you. Keep it up. Is that them? Maybe. We're going to talk about kind of some heavy stuff that Jesus said today, and this is a big deal. I'll tell you why. A lot of my friends, a ton of my friends don't go to church, don't believe, think this is nonsense and all that. But when I press a lot of people, not all of my friends, but a lot of my friends, if I really press them on it, it really does come down to, why should I go to a church full of a bunch of people who I know are fake? They claim to be holier than me. They're not. They're worse than me. I've been around them. And I agree with that. Like, that is a big issue. It's something that Jesus talked about a ton as well. But here's the problem with being hypocritical, or being a hypocrite is, it's like pride and some of the other things we're going to talk about today. It's so easy to see in other people, right? I mean, those of you who are married, you know this. I can pick faults at my wife like an Olympic gold medalist. I can tell you a million things she does terrible. But then if she ever says something like, wait, I do that? Right? It's so weird. You live with yourself, but you don't actually understand yourself very well. A lot of philosophers throughout time have even said that. But the number one complaint from most non-believing people would be, I don't want to go to a place that's full of a bunch of hypocrites. And they're probably pretty honest in that, and that's probably truthful, which kind of stings for all of us here. But there's a phrase, this guy's an author and hasn't wrote as much lately, but a couple years back, pretty popular, named Brennan Manning. He said this. He said, the single greatest cause of atheism in the world today is Christians who acknowledge Jesus with their lips, then walk out the door, deny him with their lifestyle. And I like this quote. Excuse me. He says, that is what an unbelieving world simply finds unbelievable, right? And I think for a lot of us, if we're honest, it's like, that's it. Gandhi, if you ever heard of Gandhi, one of my favorite quotes of all time, Gandhi said, I love Jesus. It's his followers I have a hard time with. So what he's saying is, I love everything Jesus stands for. Gandhi said that. But it's like when I watch his followers, I'm like, I don't understand. There's a disconnect. So we don't want to be that person. But let's talk about being a hypocrite, because I want to give you kind of a definition before we start. And we're going to be in Luke. And in case you guys don't know, we started like a year and a half ago starting in Luke chapter 1. We did it in Thanksgiving, and we stayed in the book of Luke. And on Easter Day will be the last, literally the end of Luke. So it's been like almost a 2-year process. And none of you care. I don't know why I just told you that. I could tell you half of you fell asleep in the middle of me saying that. Like, dude, we don't care, okay? Tell us what you're doing. But anyways, hypocrisy. Okay, let's first talk about what it is, because some of you are like, I know I'm just such a hypocrite. You're maybe not, okay? Let's first talk about what it's not. It's not the gap between what we do and what we wish we did. You don't want to blow up on your kids. You don't want to lose your mind on your husband, and you do it. That's not a hypocrite. That's just sin. That's just messing up, okay? That's part of it. That's how it works. A guy was telling me once, he's like, I'm such a hypocrite. I just have these terrible thoughts, and I wish I never had any bad thoughts. Okay, that's not being a hypocrite. That's just actually, you're doing something you don't want to do, and a lot of us struggle with that, and that's fine. What is it, though? Hypocrisy is the gap between what we show and who we are. Now, in my Bible, we're going to get this in a second. I actually have the word to underline, show, because this is a big deal. What this is, it says, I want you to think. I want people to believe about me. See, that's the stuff Jesus was really, really upset about. He didn't like it. Matter of fact, I can give you about 20 different times in the New Testament. He loses his mind on people. Calls them vipers, calls them snakes, calls them, whitewashed tombs. I mean, he literally puts people, blasts them. Why? Because they're trying to be something. They're trying to give you the appearance that they're holy. So I would challenge you, if you would call yourself a C3er, I would challenge you to also kind of evaluate, am I more concerned about the show? Do I worry more about what people think about me than who I really am? Because if you are, then according to Jesus, yes, you are being a hypocrite. And he has some strong words for you. So let's get to the story. Luke 20, starting verse 45. Excuse me. It says, while all the people were listening, Jesus said to his disciples, beware of the teachers of the law. Now, if you lived in this time that Jesus lived and you're walking around and you just talk to a random Jewish person, you say, hey, Bob, hey, what's up, Trent? Okay, I'm kind of confused about who's going to heaven and who's not. Who for sure is going to heaven? Every single person in these villages would say, well, the rabbis and the Pharisees and the scribes and the priests, like, of course they are. They're so much more holier than all of us. I mean, they literally carry verses in a box around their neck, right? They have these really flowing robes. Like, oh, yeah, they're for sure going in. Maybe something similar today. Some of you would be like, hey, who in this church is for sure going to heaven? Well, Trent. Okay, a lot of you are like, I've never said that. I'm pretty sure of all people, you're not going. Fair enough. I'll give you that. But the truth of the matter is we would pick those people. And Jesus came back and he was like, no, these guys don't get it at all. Like, he literally went nuts on these people. Why? Beware, teachers of law. They like to walk around in flowing robes and love to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and have the most important seats in the synagogues and the places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses and for a show, underline my Bible, for a show, make lengthy prayers. And here's the scary part. He says these men will be punished most severely. Jesus calls this group of people hypocrites several times. And the Greek word in the Bible, Jesus speaking that language, the Greek word that's used there actually means an actor, to put on a show, to wear a mask, to make someone think you're playing somebody else. So as Jesus is coming down hard on these people, I think that would be the lesson for us today. All of you in this room is I want you to think, what mask do you wear? When do you try to be something or show something that you're not? Jesus is saying, hey, this is really a big deal. Well, today what I want to do, because Jesus, if you want to kind of boil all this down, the simplest way to follow Jesus, Jesus said, the great commandments, I want you to love God, I want you to love people. But Jesus is calling us constantly to kind of lay down our own lives because we're selfish. I'm super selfish. I know many of you are selfish. He's saying, I want you to lay down your life and learn to serve God and serve others. That's the purpose of your existence. I want you to glorify me with your life, and you do that a lot of ways by serving other people. So we're selfish. So today I want to give you, because I think some are like, okay, maybe I'm a hypocrite, maybe I'm not, who cares? I just want to go eat lunch and move on. But here's what I'm going to challenge you to do. I'm going to give you 3 areas we see in this story of how they were hypocritical. And I'm going to challenge you at your heart, okay, really to kind of slow down for a second and think, okay, when do I have these thoughts? When do I do something very similar? Because that's a dangerous place to be, because Jesus is like, look, I'll have none of this. That's not what we're doing around here. Okay, so I want to give you today, I want you to think about this me first or others first kind of concept in my heart. And there's 3 ways we can be incredibly selfish and, according to Jesus, can also be hypocritical. The first is this: entitlement. Entitlement is when you and I say things like, I deserve it. You don't know how hard I work for this, I deserve it. Wait, you mean to tell me I can work that hard and the guy beside me who doesn't work as hard gets the promotion, he gets the job? No, I won't have it, God. Why? Because I deserve it. They don't deserve it. She doesn't deserve it. I deserve it. Why in the world would she break up with me? I deserve. Like, we live in that world where we think we're entitled. Look what it says in the first verse. It says, they like to walk around in flowing robes and love to be greeted with respect in the marketplaces. They have the most important seats in the synagogues, which is basically like here, and a place of honor at banquets. If you would talk to those people, they say, yeah, we deserve it. Because we are more spiritual than everybody else around us. We're better than them. We deserve these things. Now, I'm going to challenge you today to think about that. When do you have an entitled heart? And a lot of times it's when things don't go our way and we're getting real mad. And ultimately what we're saying to God is, God, I'm mad at you because I deserve better, right? Very much a Pharisee attitude. A lot of us have been there before. Now, what I'm going to do today, I've never really done this before, ever speaking. It's going to be a train wreck, okay? Does that excite anybody? I'm going to go and tell you this will be the worst thing you've ever heard in your life. I literally made this up last night on the spot. So that tells you. So later, if you're like, Trent, that wasn't real well thought out. No, it's not. I thought of it in like 30 minutes last night, okay? What I want to do, though, is I want to give you a picture for each of these 3. We're going to talk about 3 attitudes of the Pharisee, okay? 3 kind of selfish, hypocrite. This is what kind of leads to this thing that Jesus didn't like. But I'm going to give you kind of a picture for each. So I was thinking about that last night. So I'm going to give you an animal for each. And I want to challenge you to think about, are you any of these animals? Okay, the first 4, this I deserve it. I'm entitled. We're going to use a cat. Don't be a house cat. Now, I read this last night, and this was interesting to me. They did a study between what's a better pet, a dog or a cat. And they were saying whether you're neutral or not, and I know there's a cat lady here that's going to lose her freaking mind and never talk to me again. Sorry. But if you're honest about this with a cat, they said it's crazy because a dog, they did 2 studies. This blew my mind. One of them is what they call, they do it with children. They've done it in psychology a lot. They'll take a small child, 3, 4, 5 years old. They'll put them in a room with a parent, and they'll let them play, tell them to color paper or something. They're doing something. And the parent will quietly sneak out of the room. And they just monitor this kid. 1, they watch how long does it take before the kid notices. 2, how do they start acting once the parent's gone? And basically it's their way of telling like how attached the kid is to a parent. Some kids lose their mind. Some just go, oh, well, maybe next time, right? They kind of move on. But what they noticed, though, is interesting, is dogs do that. They said dogs, once they kind of notice, will like kind of walk towards the door. They wait. They're waiting on the door. And as soon as the person came back in, dogs were much like children. They would kind of get close to them, like they wanted to stay in front of them so they knew they were there. They said cats could care less. Said they never look up. They don't change anything they do. And this was interesting to me because I loved it. It said a dog, they did these tests, they hooked up dogs and they said, hey, say your dog's name's Fred or Jake or I don't know, whatever your dog's name is. When you call your dog's name, it says there's a response to dogs, they get excited. Children do the same. If you talk to a 5-year-old and you said, hey, and say your child's name, your voice means something to them more than a stranger's voice. You know what he said? And this was a Japanese researcher, and I loved it. He said, cats also hear you calling their name. They just don't care, right? Now, the reason I say that to you, because a lot of you, like me, being selfish jerks, and we're entitled, we do that, right? Oh, no, I know you're talking to me. My kids do that. Dad, you know I was talking to you? Oh, I know. I could hear you. I just didn't care, right? I'm trying to watch a game. But that's us. It's this entitled, I deserve. Don't be a cat. Don't be a cat. The second one is this, though. Okay, so they want to look good. They think they deserve all these top-notch places. The second one, though, is I want it. Lust. I want it. If I want something, I'm going to get it. Now, a lot of times this is used, when you think about a guy lusting after a woman, and that's very true here. But lust can be anything. It can be sexual. It can be material. It can be all kinds of things. Where basically you get in your mind, you want something, and you get fixated on that. Look what he says in the next part. He says, they devour widows' houses. Jesus is saying, here are poor people, poor ladies who have really no income stream. They can't take care of themselves, and you still rip them off. And if you would talk to the Pharisees, like, yeah, because we want it. Now, all of you in here are getting mad like me. Like, that's horrible to do an old lady, but we do the same. Maybe not to an old lady, but when we want something, we don't care about anyone else around us, right? Why? Because it's ultimately about me and nobody else. So if you want to be entitled, you're going to be a cat. Don't be a cat, okay? If you want to be lustful, I'm going to say don't be a wolf. Now, this is an old story that went back several years. It was actually on a radio show, like back in the 50s when it first aired. So if this story's false, blame this old-timer who made this up. But he's told a story about how up where Eskimos, like really cold climates, one of the big issues is wolves are constantly coming in. They attack people. They attack stuff. Just take their stuff. Wolves are pretty aggressive. And here's what he said the Eskimos have learned to do. It's pretty smart. He said they'll take their knives, super sharp, double-edged knives, and they'll kill an animal and they'll dip it in blood. And they'll let it freeze. Then they'll dip it in blood again, let it freeze. He said they'll do that 10, 15, 20 times to where literally all you see is just a frozen blood sickle, I guess. These wolves are attracted to it. So they come in and they start licking it. But the thing is, they don't stop. It tastes so good they keep going until they literally cut their own tongues off and bleed to death. You're welcome for that image if you have children in here as you're rocking them to bed tonight. Pastor Trent didn't mean it. He's a weirdo, okay? But here's the bottom line for all of us here, and I want you to hear this is so important. That's what me and you and I, that's what we do all the time. We're so consumed with something, because you even have people say, listen, man, it's not my business. But should you really be texting that right now? Oh, it'll be fine. I'm just saying. We are constantly doing what we want, even if it kills us. Pharisees, should you really be taken from these people? We want it. Why not? Literally, it did not matter. Okay, so don't be the entitled cat. Don't be the lustful wolf. And then the last one, this is pride. Pride says, I can handle it. Now, here's the bottom line for all of us in here. If you have pride, most men in here, I'm sure you're very similar to me, that's our go-to, right? Everyone else might be struggling, but we don't struggle. Why? Because we can always handle it. That's what men do. Look what it says. It says, for a show, make lengthy prayers. They're not talking to God because they want God's presence. They're talking to God so everybody else knows they're in charge, and they make the calls. We got this. We're the people. You don't pray, we pray. Why? Because we can handle it. Pride. Pride is where the creature tries to take the place of the Creator. Okay, so we got the entitled cat. I know none of this has made sense. Just take a nap. You got the tat. Don't be a cat. You got the lustful wolf. Okay, you're going to kill yourself. You're going to keep going. Once you get caught in something, I'm telling you, those of you who have addictions, say it was a internet addiction or a chemical addiction. Some of you in this room who have that, you know that. You literally are sitting, you're like, I hate this. I don't want to do it, but you're going to do it. Right? The wolf. Can you imagine the wolf? Bob is his buddy. He's like, dude, I think your tongue's bleeding. I think it's getting cut. I'm fine. Till it kills him. And then the last one is a puffer fish, a blowfish. Now, none of you make fun of my fat face, okay? I don't want any jokes on, but I read this. This is amazing. A blowfish will try to blow up, expand itself, sometimes 10, 15 times its original size. And it's basically a way to push people away. And I thought, how true is that with us with pride? What's pride do? Pride means I want to make myself look way bigger than I am to all of you. But you know what it does? It pushes people away. I've never met someone where they're like, you know what? He is so arrogant, but I love him. He just talks about himself and his kids all the time and how great they are, but I can't get enough of it, right? They're online on Facebook just talking about how great their family is, and I love No, we're like, dude, I don't care, right? Some guys tell me about how great their kids are. I'm like, I don't care, no offense, right? They're not my kids. Like it's just, but pride is I want to look big to you. I also read this was interesting about blowfish. They're very poisonous. They're toxic. They can kill up to 30 humans, one fish. And I thought, you know what? Pride in my life, you know what it is? It's toxic. It doesn't just push people away. It actually hurts people around me because I'm so consumed with, I can handle this. I've got this. I want you to hear this phrase today. It's very important. Jesus has zero tolerance for hypocrisy and selfishness. Zero. But Jesus also has unlimited grace for any sinner that needs forgiveness. So if you in your life want God to oppose you, because the Old Testament says God opposes the proud. So if you want God to be against you most of your life, it's easy. Be selfish, feel entitled, be lustful, be prideful, whatever the right word is. But if you want Jesus on your side, he says it's very simple. Jesus was always open to anyone who said, look, I know I don't got this together. That's why even in this church from the very beginning we tried to say, I'm not up here telling you guys how to do all this because I've got it figured out. Half of you that know me, you're like, dude, we have it figured out way more than you, right? Like, follow us more, maybe so. But all of us are coming to the same place saying, Jesus, I know I don't deserve this. I know I don't have to have it. And ultimately, I know I can't handle it. So today, I want to give you some hope for the selfishness. I want to give you some hope on how we can't hopefully be like these hypocrites that Jesus came at so hard. Super fast, okay? Now, here's your homework. I want to challenge you to do this. I know many of you won't, but some of you do. This will be helpful. I want you to think, before we start here, I'm going to go super fast. I want you to think about in your life which one of these three is a struggle. You know what's sad about me? Last night, I spent probably 20 minutes. My wife went to a game. My daughter wasn't feeling. Either way, I'm just by myself in the front room, and I spent probably 20, 30 minutes thinking, which one of these do I struggle with the most? You know what I came up with? All of them. I've mastered all. I'm terrible at all of these. But here's what I want to challenge you to do. Think about one or two, maybe all three of these, and I'm going to challenge you to do something about it this week. Actually follow Jesus' words. So what's the hope for our selfishness? I'm going to give you a phrase for each, okay? If you are entitled, if you catch yourself saying, I'm just worked up because I think I deserve more, I just deserve better. Here's the biblical phrase. It's not that I deserve it, but ultimately I deserve death. Now, I know that's not good to hear. I know that doesn't make anyone in here feel good. But the truth of the matter is, God says, guess what? All of you are separated from me. All of you. Because you're selfish and you want to do your own thing. And I'm perfect and holy. I'm God. But the beauty of this, God said, I'm going to take my son and literally let him be tortured and beaten and killed so he will make a way for all of us. It's through him, not us. So the times I catch myself saying, I'm just mad because I think my family deserves this, I want God to kind of whisper, no, you deserve death. That's the only thing you truly deserve. But he gives us so much more. What about for lust? It's not going to be, no, but you understand, I want that truck so bad, I've got to have it. I know it's $30,000 more than sticker price now because trucks are crazy outrageous, but I just got to have it. Some of you get that way. You find some, oh, if I just had that new living room suit, I'm telling you, my life would be complete. No, it won't. But it's not that I want it, it's that I want God. I want God. Because anything else I try to fill in my life will never fill the void that God was created to fill. Last one real quick. It's not that I can handle it, guys, listen to me, but it's acknowledging I can't handle anything without God. Now, some of you here are like, I do just fine with that. You really don't. Because ultimately we know I can't take another breath without God. I hope it doesn't happen. It would be so freaky and it would be like a nightmare in here. But what if I just drop right now? No, I could. Massive heart attack. Just quit breathing. Like every single breath I have, God says ultimately comes from Him. So as I'm trying to be big and be the puffer fish, like, oh, I can handle this, God's like, no, you can't. Accept it. I can't handle it. Without God, I can't handle anything. So I want to do something today, super fast, and we're going to get out here. We're going to pray, I promise. We'll go quick. I want to ask you a question. Anyone in here like Coke Zero? Just raise your hand. I won't make you come up, I promise. Just raise your hand. Okay, I see Scott. Scott put his hand up. I like that. Good Coke Zero man. Okay, well, I'm going to do something. I was thinking, you know what? We're selfish. We're always looking out for other people. Today, I'm going to serve Scott. I'm going to serve him. It's real simple. And I'm going to do it with something that means a lot to my family. This right here is a Disney World cup. I even brought the lid for him. Okay? I'm going to give this. This is my gift to Scott today. I found it. It was in the way back in our cabinet. I looked at it. I'm not going to lie. Inside, it was a little bit dirty. I don't know if that was X crumbs from bread. I don't know what. There's little black pieces in there. Don't worry about that though. Okay? Because here's what I did. I took this cup and I washed the outside so good. I mean, so good. Like literally, I washed it 3 times. I'm not kidding, with a rag and soap today, this morning. So clean. And what I'm going to do, because Scott told me he likes Coke Zero. Okay, now, again, there might have been a few crumblies in here. We don't know what they are. We're not going to worry about that, though. And I'm going to pour Scott, and I'm going to give it to him. And I want him to drink it in front of all of us. And it's going to be weird, and none of you are going to know what's going on. Okay? So this is for Scott. This is for you, okay? He'll probably still drink it, so that'll blow everything up, okay? Now, you're like, okay, as we close, Trent, why would you say that? In Matthew 23, this is what Jesus said to the same group. He said, woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, exclamation point, you hypocrites, you hypocrites, you fake, put on a show, and look what he says. You clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside you're full of greed and self-indulgence. And Jesus gives some advice. He says, I want you to clean the inside first. So as we leave today, the bottom line is this. I don't care how clean this is. I don't care how nice of a cup it is. I don't care if it means something to my family and I. If it's dirty inside and disgusting inside, I don't want it. Is it possible you think to God you've got to do things right, you've got to look good, you got to say the right things, you got to make sure other people think highly of you, and God's like, I could care less about how this looks. I care about what's on the inside. Anybody I give this to isn't going to take it. What if today as we pray, God would say, this is you. You're trying to serve me, you're trying to come to me, but ultimately it's just an outer shell game. Because Jesus said that. He said, you vipers, you snakes, you whitewashed tombs, you're as empty, you're dead inside, but you keep cleaning the coffin on the outside. Take care of what's inside first. So we're going to pray. If you would join me for just a second, we're going to close our eyes. And this is going to be our prayer, okay? Jesus, I pray that you help us today to realize part of the reason why Christians, especially in our country today, have such a bad name is because we are hypocrites. And that's not the people who mess up and acknowledge it. It happens all the time. It's not that we do things we don't want to do. That happens all the time. It's when we try to put on a show and pretend to be something we're not. And Jesus, you tell us there's unlimited grace for someone who lowers themselves and says, God, I ultimately need you. But you will oppose anybody who tries to put on a show. So God, as we pray today, very quickly, I just want to pray for some people in here who feel entitled like myself. I catch myself, God, getting worked up and mad. And if you really push me on it, what I'm ultimately saying is, I'm mad, God, because I think I deserve that. Help me this week in those moments to say, I don't deserve any of this. I don't deserve the family I have, the children I have, the amazing wife that I have. I don't deserve any of this, and you gave it to me anyways. I ultimately deserve death. God, I pray for the moments where I'm just like the wolf and lust and get consumed by something, and that's all I focus on, to my ultimate death. Help me today to realize this week, I don't want it. I just want you, God. That's all I need. And ultimately, I pray for maybe some of us in here who would just say, you know what, if we're honest, we're just full of pride. I'm constantly trying to make myself look better. I spend 30 minutes on a family picture, editing it so people will see this perfect picture of who we are. I can handle it. I've got this. And God, today, remind me I can't handle anything, and neither can any person in this room without you. So help us not to be the entitled cat. Help us to not be the lustful wolf. And help us not to be the proudful, the super proud blowfish. Help us to be more like your son. I pray today for those watching online this evening. I pray for those in this room right now that today's the day maybe God's speaking to your heart and you know something's going on. Today's going to be a big day. I believe this for you. It's a day where you're going to commit your life to Christ for the first time. And it's so simple a kid can do it. It's something, maybe praying something like this, just saying, Jesus, here's your prayer. I know I've sinned. I know my heart's not right. But this morning, I'm asking you to forgive me and save me. Jesus, I'm trading my old life in for the new life that you're giving me. And I'm going to follow you. Nobody looking around, I'm going to ask you if today's the day, for the first time in your life, you just prayed and said, Jesus, I'm giving my life to you. I'm surrendering you. Save me. Forgive me. I'm becoming a new creation. Change my heart. If that's you, I want you to do something really bold. You know, I'm going to stand up. I'm not going to say your name if I even know you. But I want you to if you would just lift your hand and say, Trent, today's the day I pray for the first time in my life. Ask Jesus. Save me. If that's you, just put up. I just want to acknowledge it. We want to celebrate. And that's it. If that's you, hand up. You can put it back down. Hand up. Awesome. Awesome. Jesus, so thankful for the lives you continue to change. So thankful for what you're doing in our mix. But above all, help us as we walk out these doors. We're not here to put on a show. We're here to glorify you and serve others. We ask this in your name, and amen. All right, guys. Hey, I am so pumped that you're here. We're kicking off a brand new series next week called Greater Reward. Don't want you to miss it. We'll see you then. Take care.